My name is Karen Jones. I'm a retired OBGYN physician, and I also went to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. So I also have training in energy healing and, in fact, have been done and continue to do energy healing. Used to be in person, though more recently, of course, I've been doing this by phone and by video conferencing. I also have done quite a bit of training in various personal growth sessions and also spiritual growth. And so, helping and empowering people to have mastery in their lives is one of my passions because when we have mastery, when we master ourselves, then all of a sudden the world opens up. We have choices that we didn't have before, we have impact that we never knew we had before, and we have clarity to actually create the life of our dreams. So, that's uh, that's a few seconds about me. Now, I got inspired a couple days ago. You probably remember that song, "You Can Write Your Story." I forget exactly how the tune goes now, but I actually did a couple of posts yesterday and today on Facebook and Instagram. Yesterday's being I can write my story, and talking about negative meaning making, and today about you can rewrite your story. So I thought I'd go on to live and speak to that. How do we rewrite our stories? But let me back up a moment. There is something called negative meaning making, and what that is when something happens to us, the car breaks down, the coworker criticizes you, something you were supposed to get in the mail doesn't come, and we'll take that event and make a negative meaning out of that. Say it's about me in a negative way. So that's what negative meaning making is all about. Now, it's interesting, but we women are way more likely to use negative meaning making than the men are. And I think part of that is our own psychology as women that pushes us to be cooperators, peacemakers. I mean, obviously, our biology with estrogen in our body, I don't know if you knew this, but estrogen actually is the peacemaking hormone. It encourages us to keep the peace and make the peace. There's good and bad to that, of course. Biologically speaking, if we keep the peace, we keep the family together, then it's safer for our children. It's safer for us. Um, the interesting that happens with menopause, okay, I'm taking this little sidelight right here because I really get off at menopause too, is when we're menopausal and we no longer have estrogen in our bodies, then we are not so peaceable anymore. We're way more likely to say, wait a minute, this does not work for me. That is not correct, and we need to have a conversation. So there's something about our biology that pushes this whole um, wanting to be the peacemakers and make sure everybody's happy and all that. We control, and the second point is we control our actions and our thoughts and our feelings by negative meanings. So if I feel like every time I say, try to become visible, something happens, like the internet goes down or something like that, I can make the meaning that it's because I'm not meant to become visible, that there's something wrong with me, that and that would encourage me to not go out on a limb and try something new. So it's our ego's way to try to keep us safe. However, we're not 5 years old anymore. We're not even 15. We are positive people, we're mature adults, and we can keep ourselves safe. So these old ways, habitual ways that our brains have of keeping us safe don't actually, um, shall we say, treat us well anymore. So that's the whole thing about negative meaning making, why we do it, and let's have a discussion about how to stop doing it. Because the problem with negative meaning making is it's usually meanings that are shame based. I'm not good, I'm bad, that sort of thing. And if I even say that out loud or in my mind, it brings up some really awful feelings that go along with that emotional pain, fear, If I do that very much, there can be anger and resentment, or if I think other people are thinking that about me, there can be anger and resentment, sadness and grief, um, aloneness, feeling alone then. So there's some not very pleasant stuff that goes with it. So let's talk about some 4 easy or at least straightforward steps to stop that old habit. And again, because it's a habitual way of doing things, it is going to take repetition, regular practice before we can pretty much say we're not doing that anymore. And I can tell you that's true for myself, and that even now, with all the work I've done with my own personal growth, there are times I completely forget this. So I do these lives partly as a way to remind myself to do this because, staying in the pain, staying in the negative meaning is just not resourceful. And it doesn't get us to the lush life, the juicy life, the authentically being here, radiant, wonderful beings that we are, that many of us are longing for. And it certainly doesn't allow us to have the positive and benevolent impact in the world on our friends and relations and our communities that we want to have. Okay, so that's the whole why are we doing this at all? So step number 1 is going to be awareness. Because if I'm not aware, I've just made a negative meaning about this event or what somebody said, then I can't possibly change it. So, and sometimes you may actually have to write yourself notes. What meaning did I just make? Something like that, to remind ourselves to either in the moment or after the moment to shift it. And it is perfectly fine to not catch it in the moment, and in fact, go back and shift it later when you realize what you did. So say, gosh, I think the first time I did a meditation live, the internet kicked out about 10 minutes into it. So I had to restart and go back again. Um, I didn't happen to make a negative meaning at the moment because I thought it was actually pretty funny. But if you have something like that and hours later you think, gosh, what did I just tell myself about that happening? So then the next part is to explore, what did I just tell myself, or what did I tell myself a couple of hours of myself? What negative meaning did I have? And then you can ask yourself, step number 2, I can actually have a choice here. I do not have to keep that negative meaning. I can do something different. So realizing you have a choice is actually really big, because a lot of the times we feel like what we think is the way it is. It's set in stone, not changeable. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. So remembering that we have a choice is so important. I'm looking over here because I actually have some notes up to remind me. So I'm going to look again to make sure I'm getting the points I wanted to. So we have the power and the ability to respond, or responsibility, then to change our minds, change our habits, and do something different. So number 3, in a way, and I'm going to add this, in a way that's life affirming. So we can come up with a story, a meaning that is actually life affirming instead of something that is degrading, that degrades me, degrades others. Step number 3, all right, here's the fun one. Find a neutral meaning. So in my example of the internet going out, the neutral meaning of that going out is the internet just went out. Maybe my bandwidth isn't where it should be. And maybe I should go ahead and check my bandwidth, which, by the way, I actually went ahead and did. So I can take a neutral meaning, and then I can ask myself, in this situation, was the world trying to tell me something? Well, actually not. If the issue was my coworker said something critical to me, and I immediately felt I'm a horrible person with nothing to offer this company, or that person is always on my case, what an idiot. I can go again back to that and say, okay, what is a neutral meaning I can make of this? Oh, this person is giving me feedback. So what is my responsibility here? My responsibility is to say, is there anything in what that person just shared that is pertinent to me? Because just because that person shared something does not mean they were correct, but it also doesn't automatically make them wrong either. I get to, as from my stance of my positive adult ego, look at that feedback and say, applicable to me or not? Is there something for me to learn or not? And then take that. So starting from a neutral viewpoint gives me now the ability to take an action that's going to feel better to me. And it doesn't come with, I'm not good, I'm a bad person, that person is a jerk. That kind of garbage energy, negative energy that comes with it that we really don't need to add to ourselves. The fourth step is really having a lot of self-compassion. Because I know for myself, when I make a negative meaning of something that says, I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm not good enough, I don't have something to share here, nobody's interested, that comes with some really painful inner feelings. And it's very important for me to allow those feelings to be there, to acknowledge that I'm feeling that way. I don't tell myself I shouldn't feel that way because I'm feeling that way. That's how I feel. But I can also support myself and have compassion for myself so I don't stay with that. And I don't want to let that feeling get stuck in my energy field, okay? In my neurology. I don't want that negative energy, that negative emotion, that painful emotion, whether it's sadness or grief or anger or resentment or fear. I don't want that stuck in my physiology. So what do? Have compassion for myself. Have compassion for that young part of myself that feels that way and breathe. Okay? So if something happens and the first meaning I make is a negative meaning, like nobody's interested in me, and I feel that in my heart, then I can breathe into my heart. And from the stance perspective of my positive adult ego, I can acknowledge it, say, yes, those kinds of thoughts cause really painful feelings. Yes. And it's almost as if I'm putting my arms around that part of myself that is feeling that way. And that can be just so supportive and compassionate and kind to myself. Because just like I would extend that support and that kindness and compassion to a girlfriend who said, oh, I feel this way, I can do the same thing back again to myself. So again, the steps for dealing with the negative meaning making. Number one, be aware. If I'm not aware I'm making a negative meaning to a situation out here or in here, then I can't change it. Number two, realize I can change it. I can make another choice. I have the power to do so. Think of a new story. Number three, find a neutral story and let yourself observe it and ask yourself, is there something here I can learn or not? There may not be anything. And then number four, when those painful emotions come up, be compassionate, be kind, breathe, and allow yourself to acknowledge. And as you breathe into them, you'll begin to release them. Thanks again for joining me. I love talking about this kind of stuff. Dealing with negative meaning making, very important because it happens all the time. And this is the kind of work that I love to do on a one-on-one mentoring program or small group mentoring program. I'll have more to speak about those things at another time. But yeah, contact me if you have further questions. And when you watch the replay, please do hashtag replay and make comments. How did it strike you? What were your takeaways? What was interesting about it? Where you agree, where you disagree? All of that. Blessings, everyone. Take care and be well.